Welcome back. Hey, the next thing we want to do, this view controller here, we'd like it to display a table. Eventually we'll want to show the names of the filters here. So let's go to our storyboard. Oh, and we're there. Here's the view controller. It's about time that we actually gave it a name. So this is the select filters. Actually, the name of the view is going to be select filters. Perfect. Then in the center of this view controller, we want to see a table. So I'll go to TableView, not the TableView controller. That's a controller with a table in it. We just want the table view itself, since we already have a controller. Drag that right there. Do a quick resize. Okay. And in addition to the table view, we need the prototype cell. Okay, in other words, the prototype cell is the thing that's going to contain, the cells for this table view. Next up, we actually need to have a class for this view controller. Okay, so we need some controlling code that's going to populate this table view. So let's create that. Let's go new file. Let's do a Coca class, and we want this to be a actually it is a UI view controller, right? So this will be the select filters view controller. Create. Okay, so we've created the code. Now we want to go back to the storyboard, and we want to say we want this particular view controller to be associated with that code. So we'll go over to this guy here, and there it is, the select filters view controller. Right. So now that this view controller is associated with this chunk of code, and is that the right code? Yeah, it's that code right there. Now we can do, oh, and I need to go UI kit, because that's what we're using. Okay, now I want to put an outlet here for our table, so that this code can manipulate the table. So I'll grab the table, hold down control, and do a control drag right into here. And we want to call this the table, the filters table. That's what we want to call it. Nice. Okay, so after this view is initialized, we want to put some things in the filters table. So first thing we need to do, we want this filter table. Where's the data source for the filter table? Well, one of the simpler things we can do is we can make this view controller the data source. So I'm gonna control click on the filter table and drag it to this view controller itself and tell it you are the data source. Right, so this view controller is now a data source for the table. So we need to add a prototype to tell it that, and the prototype is UI table view data source. Exactly. So this view controller now also exposes the UI table view data source protocol, and it's complaining because there's a couple of mandatory methods that we'll need to add. the most obvious of this is we need to know how many cells to display, and then for every cell we need to give it some data. So before I implement the methods, let's actually decide what we're going to display. We're just going to put some test data in here for starters. I'll go let data, and we want our data to be an array of strings, and we'll say filter 1 and filter 2. Okay, so we now have some data, and now we need to implement a couple of methods. The first one is the what we need to say how many rows there are. So for that, we just start typing the word TableView in, and here are all the methods, and we want the one for number of rows in section. There we go. We only have the one section, and it defaults to 1, so we just need to return data.count. Okay, that was pretty simple. Next function we absolutely need is the one that gets called as TableView cells need to be displayed. So yeah, it's going to call cell for row at index path when it needs to display a cell. And the size is driving me crazy. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go over here and select it this way. There we go. So what do we need to do? We need to go to the table view. So I'll just copy that. Right. We need to do something called DQ reusable cell with identifier. Oh, and I'm getting ahead of myself. We need to pass in an identifier for the cell, and I didn't set that up yet, so I'm going to go back to the storyboard. You can see that it's pretty interconnected. Wrong storyboard. Here's the cell, and if we go in here, there's the reuse identifier. By the way, I've mistakenly put the reuse identifier into the restoration ID, and that's not what we need to do. We need to go to the reuse identifier. We need to give it a name. So I'm going to call it the filter cell. Not very good typing, but it works. Filter cell. So this is our filter cell. Right. Let's go back to the view controller. Nice. So now the identifier is filter cell. And the current index for path is index path. Okay. This method returns a cell. And we need to return a cell from this method. Okay. So this is going to get called whenever a cell needs to be displayed. And we want to actually display this string. So I'm going to say for this cell, we're going to go to its text label, and we're going to set the text to the appropriate text, which is, we're going to go into data, and it's either going to be the 0th or the first one, and I'm just going to go to what's the current index path that we're trying to display, and in particular we need the row. There we go. Okay, a couple more things we need to do. We did that. Over here, we need to go here. Okay, I'm going to go, this is the filters table, and I'm going to hold down Control, drag it to our, oh, I already did that. It's the data source. Sorry. Let's actually run it and see if we get any goodness. There's enough little steps that I may have missed something, but it's pretty good at telling us if we missed something. So the application starts as normal. We click on this. Oh, it worked. Okay, so that is a real simple table view. Next step, we're going to actually list our filters, and maybe we'll allow, well, we'll see what we'll do. We'll list our filters and go from there. I guess at this point I should quickly save, and I have been doing that throughout. So I'm going to commit my changes, and I'll just say that we've added TableView. Okay, thanks for joining.